Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Hussein, as mentioned. I'm the program head for Block 71 Indonesia. I don't know why I'm being so formal, but I will head over to the seat really shortly, and we'll kick off the panel. But before we begin, just a little preface. This actually is the inaugural start of our Block 71 Indonesia's, or rather Block 71's, the first episode of our Web3 series. We will be kicking off a whole host of, webinars hosted online. We're taking this opportunity to actually do it offline first, but we're going to do it every month, starting from this month onwards. So I'll share more details towards the end of the webinar. Sorry, just doing a little bit of advertisements. They will get the opportunity later, but I'm just doing it for myself first. But without further ado, we will begin. So, as we are gathered here today, and I'm very, very honored to have three amazing individuals in the startup scene, in the block. Oh, I don't know why I'm still wearing this. In the startup scene and also in the blockchain or the Web3 space, right? We'll deep dive into what Web3 is and all that. But before we begin, I'm sure all of you want to know who they are. So maybe we'll start off with some quick introductions. Ladies first, of course. Yiling, please.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Yiling. So I am the Executive Director of Global Programs at 500 Global, one of the world's most active venture capital fund. I also run my own education startup and will be launching a DAO and NFT project pretty soon. So generally, my team runs accelerator programs for startups all around the world, from Canada to Cambodia and Singapore to the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll deep dive into the DAO that you mentioned later. But next up, we have Prof. Emir from the Asian Institute of Digital Finance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emir. I'm in Asian Institute of Digital Finance, and I'm also at NUS Business School. So both of these are National University of Singapore. Importantly for this crowd, I'm head of fintech training at Asian Institute of Digital Finance, where we have a lot of executive education programs from 2 days, 3 days, 6 days. Some of them qualify for professional certificate, and if you stack 3 professional certificates together, you get NUS Advanced Professional Certificate. Other than that, we have a lot going on in education space, like Masters and PhD in Digital Finance Technology. We do a lot of research, and we also have FinTech Business Incubator. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Emir. Last but not least, we have Aaron Koh. Apologies for the... Oh, it's fixed. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have Aaron from Clayton Foundation.
Hi guys, can you all hear me? Okay, thank you, Hussein, for the invite. So I'm Aaron, the head of marketing of Clayton Foundation. Clayton is the blockchain arm of Kakao, the number 2 company in Korea after Samsung. So in Korea, basically 99% of Koreans use one form or another of Kakao's subsidiary services. And in 2018, they decided to launch their blockchain arm with the aim to revolutionize and allow or create a bridge for Web2 users to enter into the Web3. The main use case was primarily to integrate blockchain within the Kakao app or Kakao Chat app. And to date, I'm happy to say that we have about 1 million users that have signed up already, and this is equivalent to the active daily users of on OpenSea, the world's largest NFT marketplace. In 2021, we relocated our headquarters in Singapore with a view for global expansion. And definitely looking forward to sharing more about our use cases of connecting Web 2 to Web 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. So there's been a bit of talk about Web 2 and Web 3. I think it's been a while since I've been in an offline setting, so everyone's still adjusting to it. But diving straight into it, right? Really, what is Web 3? And to be more precise, right? Aaron, since you started, you got the ball rolling, right? What's the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 as well?
Got it. I think that's a very interesting question. Nowadays, it's all the buzz. And within Web3 space, I think people are most familiar with Bitcoin, Ethereum. However, I think the way we look at it from Clayton perspective is more about the evolution. From Web 1.0, whereby it is just write only on your internet, your website, to content whereby you can write and read, specifically like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whereby you are able to create content. However, within Web3 space, what is it all about? And the way we view it is more about content creators economy. How are we able to create liquidity and mobility within the content that you have created, not only for yourself, but also for everyone? And this allows us to monetize and have liquidity and accessibility for everyone. So case in example, if you have heard of Axie Infinity, it is a play-to-earn game. And this allows users to create content and then have a GDP element, or in crypto speak, we call them tokenomics, to be able to enhance the accessibility and monetary value to the efforts that you have put into the activities that you are doing. Example, playing a game. And this then, it allows everyone to be able to participate in it. I think the most famous maybe would be fan only in the Web2 space. So those of you who know fan only, is sort of like a pay subscription to be able to access exclusive content. However, in the Web3 space, anyone and everyone can be a creator. And I think with Eileen, she's looking to create her own DAO. And I think that is really the possibilities that open up for everyone.
Thank you. Eileen or Prof. Emir, any thoughts on the differences between Web 2, Web 3, or even Web 1, right, in terms of how it grew? Prof. Emir, I understand you probably have mentioned it in one of your courses as well.
Sure. I'm happy to talk about this because, first of all, it's a very elusive term, right? We are still trying to figure out what Web3 in fact is. And there was a recent survey in Harvard Business Review readers, right? That was 2 months ago in March 2022, right? 70% of them did not know what the term means, right? And this is very important when we talk about these things because first, the term is elusive, it's still being molded, but we heard some really good explanation from Aaron, right? So whereas Web 1 was read only, Web 2 was read and write, and then Web 3 is read, write, and own the piece of that. So that is this tokenization that is important because content creators are now owning the piece of the economy. So whereas original Web 1 was completely decentralized, was built on open source protocol, Web 2 kind of brought this together, centralized within few big tech companies who helped us a lot, right? But also helped themselves even more and amassed huge power. So now we are going, in a way, in an original direction. We are trying to democratize and decentralize it all over again.
Thank you, Prof. So you've heard the unofficial and then more a more textbook answer from our Blue professor. So in terms of Web3, there's been a lot of debacle, especially with Luna crashing. Stories of people even committing suicide. Right? It's a lot of it's left a sour taste in a lot of people. Right? And one of the things that I've heard recently has always been a lot of Web3 projects are lacking utility. People don't really understand, and it's all been hype. And we're kind of like what Prof. Emir said, we're kind of in between. We're not really in Web 3 yet, but we're past Web 2. So in your experiences, for three of you, right, what does it take for Web 3 to really be realized? And in your experience also, or in terms of your knowledge, how would that look like? What do you think would happen when we reach the realization? Aaron, you want to go first?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very good question. From the onset, I think the intention of creating Bitcoin was from the ashes of the 2008 crisis, whereby it was supposed to be a decentralized payment system and also asset for the masses. Over time, I think Bitcoin has really evolved, and like what Hussein has asked, what exactly then is the real value of blockchain or crypto? A lot of the terms that we now throw about today, like metaverse, NFTs, what exactly do they mean? Are they just sort of like AR or just a JPEG? I think from our stance and our viewpoint, NFTs has so much more utility behind them. It can be used as a digital identity due to its non-fungibility. On top of that, within the metaverse space, it is not just blockchain itself, but it's AR, AI, all coming together to be able to create an immersive digital experience. And last of all, I think within the creators economy, in-game assets, how do we create fungibility and mobility in and out of the game? What happens if you play after a while and you get sick of the game and you want to move on? The liquidity that you have spent, example me, I've spent quite a bit, but please don't tell my wife, more than I should have on a Web2 game. Unfortunately, they are all locked within the game itself. If the day I decide to spend, unfortunately, it will just be an account number, that's all. How then do we add on a GDP element or the tokenomics to allow the user or the player to have exit liquidity? Or even someone who is not a gamer but wants to participate within to create in-game assets like skin for the sword or for the armor, to be able to participate and earn some income from that. I think that is the intrinsic value and the answer to your question. And at Clayton, due to the heritage of Kakao, we have Kakao Games, one of the largest gaming company in Korea. We have paired up with AAA game companies to be able to onboard them onto the blockchain, such as WeMate, Netmarble, NeoWiz. On top of that, we are also in discussions with some of your Googles of the world, Microsoft of the world, your La Ligas, your English football leagues around the world to be able to create real utility. And I believe out of the ashes of this whole debacle of Luna, there will be new utility and new use cases that arise to be able to engage everyone within the Web3 space.
Yiling, anything to? I'm sure you've seen a lot of projects come to you, especially being part of 500. Do you see that shift? And I think rugging has been one of the more common things that's happened last year as well. Do you see new types of Web3 projects coming out? Beyond just the space of crypto marketplaces, NFTs or selfies of an Indonesian in things like that.
Maybe before I answer that, just to get a feel of the room, right? Because then I can adjust, am I in a selling mode, convincing mode, or just educational mode, right? So how many of you all feel that, Web3, NFT, blockchain, all these technologies is not going to last, or really still don't really get what it's all about? And there really is no shame to it.
Here to stay.
Yeah, I'm still learning, in all honesty. And I don't think we've reached a stage where it's matured yet. Okay, but it seems like people kind of have an understanding, kind of know it's coming up. Okay, so I think when it comes to Web3, right, 500 Global actually started investing in blockchain technology since 2014, Animoca Brands. And since 2018, we invested in Solana Labs, and then in Axie Infinity in 2019. We invested in Rain, which is the first crypto exchange recognized by the Middle East in 2019. This was, again, like what Aaron was saying, it's like 2008. But even in 2018, people were still thinking we are early. Right? And then now people are still thinking it's early. So I think overall we are going through a maturity process. It's going to come, and as all this happens, new kind of utility, new kind of use cases will come about. But maybe to share a little bit about 500 Global and how we see this as well. We generally invest in the underlying either platform enablers or platforms and tools that are built on top of the technology. We don't invest in your day-to-day trading of crypto tokens, that kind of thing. So even recently, one of our latest investments is actually in Virtual Tech Frontier, which helps, if you think about it again, last time, right, it's about helping brands get onto this AR, VR platform. Now it's helping big brands, again, like your L'Oreal, your Petronas, so on and so forth, build a presence in the metaverse, such that these brands, before they want to launch a new design, a new product, they can actually host something virtually in the metaverse, and any one of us can interact with the brand and say, we want this, we want that, this looks horrible, please don't launch this, so on and so forth. So we are investing in startups that are creating technologies enablers like that. Another one that we just invested in is called Lutex. So it's also a cross-chain, game-based NFT platform. Now, So really to answer all that, right, I think what's important to note, and if you look at what Minister Heng Swee Keat said yesterday, is to not dismiss the technology, to not throw the baby out with the bathwater, to understand that as we look at the utility that's going to come out, we can create new use cases. So the funny thing is that I would say, maybe even as recent as a month ago, if we look at NFT projects out there, and we hear people talking about building a community, it feels a little bit Web 2-ish, like, oh my God, like we've been talking about community building since Web 2, right? In startups and accelerators, it's always about building this community. We've got books on that. Why are we even mentioning that in Web 3? But now, in this winter period in Web 3, people are actually looking back at community. The ones which still last, where people are still holding on to the digital assets and the tokens, are the ones where the holders really resonates with the vision of the project. They feel that they are in this safe community where we share that common values and vision. We're here to stay and to support each other. So I think it's just something to think about regarding what we're going to create, what's going to come out of all this. It's going to be underlying it all. I think it's ultimately the people who want to own something together and build something together.
Prof. Emil, any thoughts? But thank you, Yiling as well.
Many thoughts. Wonderful introductions here, wonderful thoughts here. From our perspective, NUS and Asian Institute of Digital Finance, what we are interested in general is building digital ecosystem in Singapore and in Asia, right? So for us, what's important is awareness and education. And for that, we work really hard on both of these. So please go look it up. We do have Web 1, which is aidf.nus.edu.sg. We do have Web 2. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And we are now working on Web 3. Please hold on to that. It's coming very soon. But what's important is we are educating people, right? And I already said we have masters and PhD. Obviously, not everyone has time for that. But we have 2-day programs. We have 6-day programs. The upcoming program is on July 22nd to July 29. It's a 1-week program. It is digital assets and blockchain in finance. So Professor David Lee and I are anchor instructors. We have other instructors. But so please look it up. Singapore citizens and PRs have a huge discounts. But not only that, we have a lot of many different events. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. A lot of them are free. So please do engage with us.
Thank you. I see some people still looking at their phones. I hope you are looking up his Web 1, Web 2, and hopefully Web 3 soon. But on the selfishly, because I'm from Block 71, we nurture early stage tech startups. So most of my questions is going to come from the founder's point of view, right? And one of the critical questions has always been, how do I get funded? And I think within the Web 3 space, the funding scene is changing, right? Yiling, you being at 500, how do you see that changing? And we probably will go into a little bit deeper after this, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an exciting space. So coming from a founder's point of view, we've never been more flush with money coming into the ecosystem, both in terms of technologically, but also geographically, right? Money coming out from US, from China into Southeast Asia. So I think it's a fantastic time. There's been a lot of talk around how is it that maybe a few schools of thought. Number one, the Web3 native folks will say, why are Web2 folks coming into this ecosystem? Like, just leave this space, right? So why is it that money is pouring into it? I think the first one is really recognizing the technology and the potential there. The second thing to note is that VCs traditionally aren't necessarily able to invest in crypto and in tokens. That's just how our LP structure wouldn't allow us to invest in a certain percentage of crypto alternative assets. But we see the opportunity. So that's why you see new crypto funds coming out, investing just in this. I think the key thing to note and what's exciting for founders is now they realize that my money or rather, I can source money not just by bootstrapping, not just from VCs, but also high net worth individuals who've made their buck in the early crypto days. I can also get money from investment DAOs. So that's the other exciting space that's coming out, right? And when we go into investment DAOs, it's really anyone here can be part of a DAO, right? You don't need to be an accredited investor. I feel like I'm treading into dangerous territory there. Okay, but I think the key thing about a DAO is that a lot of us can now become owners. A lot of us can now make a decision by pooling our money together and deciding collectively what we want to invest in. And that could be in a climate tech startup that a VC thinks is too long horizon, or it could be in the youth education kind of startup where traditionally only CSR arms of corporates actually fund. And I think that's what's exciting, about all this money and all these new activities in the space.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron, do you see similar kind of ideas coming to you as well? I understand that Clayton is looking to expand your brand and adoption in Southeast Asia. Do you see similar patterns?
I think like what Yiling has said, liquidity is flushed everywhere due to, I think, macroeconomics factor, whereby there was low interest rate for a long period of time. And now all this liquidity, they need somewhere to be parked. And where exactly will they move? I think that would be a whole new topic to really dive into. But maybe I can share that at Clayton, what exactly do we do? The way we view it is really to build real utility and intrinsic value to create GDP within the projects itself via tokenomics. And from that sense, due to the fact that some of the team members, they have been in this space for a long period of time, my boss, David Shin, he is the head of global adoption. He has been in crypto since 2012, I believe, more than 10 years. And I think within the VC space itself, nowadays within Web3, it's no longer about who has the most money, but who has the most connections. And are you able to understand the technology within it? So I think case in example, Hussein, going back to your previous question about Luna, personally, I did not invest in it because when you deep dive into the entire tokenomics, there were some gaps that were quite glaring. Similarly, I think Tron just released their own stablecoin, which modeled themselves after Luna, USDD. I would say Web3 is complicated, and having money is not enough, but really having the knowledge, the connections to be able to invest in a project that will have real utility and longevity. And from Clayton, we have two particular arms. One is the foundation, a non-profit that provides grant, and also a VC, which is called Crust Universe. So these two, they will actually collaborate to be able to expand the ecosystem. And based on that, I think, let me just share one example, will be Netmarble, one of the AAA game companies that I shared with you earlier on. Due to the fact that they had the brands and they had the IP of all the games, however, they needed a partner to come into the Web3 space. And what we did was to provide them with the tech and the know-how to structure the tokenomics and governance structure. The token was recently launched at 4 cents, and within 1 week, it went all the way up to $75. This is the real intrinsic value that users are looking for and demanding. However, do you know where to search? I think that would be the open question for all.
Thank you. I think you mentioned something resonated with me, your question, which is knowledge, right? And, what's your gut sense as to the maturity of the people running the projects right now? And I think also a question from Prof. Amir as well, how far can education bring them? I'm pretty sure all of us are learning. Maybe I'm asking a very stupid question here, but I'm also learning. So hopefully this is a chance for everyone. But is it something that should be institutional in terms of knowledge, or is it something that I can just Google and YouTube, to understand?
I think it's a mix of everything. It's not only about the ecosystem, about the partnerships, but I think it's also about the knowledge. So for those of y'all who are interested, may I refer you to Professor Emir courses. There are 2 days and 6 days. Other than that, if you are interested to know more about advisory and digital strategy end-to-end with regards to Web3 space, I think we are more than happy, me and my team, to share with you. And going back to your question, ultimately at the end of the day, I think there are a lot of use cases that are being explored. One interesting thing about Web3 is that whenever there was a bear market or winter period, since 2018, there was a winter market, then after that there was DeFi summer. The innovations that come during this bear market has really accelerated the use cases of the technology itself. So even though now is winter period for crypto, I believe that the next wave of innovation will come based on metaverse, based on digital identity to be used within carbon credit space, to be used within supply chain management and so on and so forth. So I think with regards to the education space, I think like what Eileen has also shared, is everyone is still in the learning phase, even for myself.
Prof, anything to add? Anything interesting that you've seen from running? I mean, AIDF has been around since 2019, I believe.
AIDF has been around since 2020, so it's a very, very young institute, but it is, thanks to MAS and NRF and NUS, we have incredible funding. But it's very, very interesting that I'm listening to people who are in actual space and they are dealing with actual problem. From my perspective, in education, right, we are interested in the whole space doing well. And right now we are in a very, very early stages, and I would even say this is the era of MySpace. What MySpace or Napster were for Web 2, now we have Web 3. What that means is that a lot of ideas are out there. The space is wide open. It's a wild west out there, but it also means that there are a lot of unknown unknowns, things that we don't even know that we don't know. Now that is a problematic from the perspective that some of these companies will struggle mightily, and some new ones will emerge, and there will be so-called creative destruction in terms of Schumpeter. But what's important, and I keep going back to that, is that we all are aware. We all understand what's going on. This is the room full of believers, right? And that is good. But even among believers, we have idealists and we have pragmatists, right? So I believe I'm more of a pragmatic type. At AIDF, we also have more of idealistic types. But that's also important, to have this exchange of ideas, to give our students and our participants different viewpoints, because none of us can claim that we know all the answers. Actually, most of us cannot claim that we know any answers at all. But for us, it's important that we are all moving in the same direction. And when crypto goes up in terms of prices, and when crypto goes down, we are agnostic about it, right? What we care about is either movement up or down creates interest in the community, right? And knowing interest leads to curiosity, curiosity leads to education, education leads to knowledge, and knowledge leads that all of us as a community will be better off.
Thanks, Prof. So, I mean, going back to fundraising then, and this is a question mostly for Yiling, I guess. Because we are all learning, how do you determine which Web3 projects are investment worthy? Putting you on the spotlight, really.
Whatever I'm going to say is my personal opinion only and doesn't represent the view of 500 Global. And please DYOR, so do your own research. Okay, sorry. In all honesty, I think it's really very similar to. I'll address it from a few point of view, right? I think the first one is if you look at Web2 startups itself, how do we invest? 500 invests in very, very early stage startups, which means at that point in time, they probably don't even have market traction yet. So who are we investing in? We're investing in a potential market need, right? That there is a need that needs to be solved with this technology. So market validation is important. So you don't build and hope that they will come, but rather you identify what is it that the users, customers need before you build it. That's number one. And then number two, we invest in a team, right? Is this the right team to actually build and execute on this? To a certain extent, I think the Web3 projects are the same thing, which is number one, is this something that your users, your community actually needs? Number two, what kind of value are you providing to your community? And the third thing is this the right team to actually be building this, right? Can you really uphold what you say you're going to deliver? So on and all, I think I'll just leave it at that, which is really back to the fundamentals. Don't chase hype. Everything goes back to the customer, the user, the consumer at the core of it all.
Especially to all the startup founders who are in the audience as well as online. If you're ever wondering, what it takes to get funded, yeah, the principles behind, Web2 startups still apply to Web3, fortunately or unfortunately. So moving a little bit away from the funding space, I think in terms of the ecosystem, right, we do see, like, I know, Aaron, you mentioned Kakao moving into the Web3 space to kind of supplement and carry on what they've been doing, right? Do you see other partners going into it, guys? Like, you mentioned a few leagues. Do you see people like NBA, or even other brands like Disney and all this? Disney has started it, of course, but other brands starting to go into it, not just doing it for themselves, but do you see them also supporting the makers on the ground?
I think that's a very good question. With regards to the ecosystem, it's about the partners, not only on the business side of things and also from the technology side of things. Maybe going back a few steps as to the origins, why did Kakao start their blockchain arm? It was with the vision to be able to integrate blockchain into a Web2 application to enhance the usability, because as we all know, if those of you who have delved in DeFi before, decentralized finance, it is not easy to come on board. And what the vision was to be able to integrate NFTs, a marketplace or blockchain technology into the application. And we have successfully done that with Kakao Chat. You are now able, if you are Korean, to be able to purchase an NFT with your Kakao Chat. And that was the realization that, hey, they have a use case to be able to ease the friction for users to come on board. As to your question, whether would there be other Web2 companies to be able to enter into it, I believe recently Lego did sign a deal with Fortnite to build their own metaverse. However, we need to recognize that Fortnite isn't exactly a Web3 company that is open source. It is still a Web2 company. The true realization of a Web3, first of all, I think will be open source. Second will be interoperability with other blockchains. And third will be accessibility. Anyone would be able to participate. And I think in that sense, the future is still unknown, be it in the education space, be it even in digital identities, be it even in supply chain management. What we are over here now, like what Prof has correctly highlighted, I believe that the main difference between 2018 and now was that 2018, the crash, everyone was questioning, would Bitcoin survive? Would crypto survive? And in such a conference, if there was such a conference in 2018, I think the crowd will only be half of this size. However, I think considering now it is a winter and bear market, but it is full house, so there could only be two possibilities. Either the bottom has not arrived, or everyone now believes that blockchain is here to stay. Personally, I hope it is the latter.
I think there's another option. They probably don't have a wallet yet.
Possible. So it is an exciting space. And what we can see is for any technology to really take off, it's always about institution adoption and government regulations. For Clayton, beginning of last year, we signed a deal with the Bank of Korea to build their CDBC on our sidechain. On top of that, since Q3 till now, we have accelerated our partnership growth by onboarding a lot of Web2 companies onto the space. There's GMO from Japan, Salim Group from Indonesia, One Entertainment in Thailand, they are the Hollywood of Thailand, and also Animal Concerts, which is one of the largest concert organizer with all the American celebrities and entertainment. And I think the most visible use case would be within Kakao Korea itself, whereby a lot of the celebrities and AAA game companies are coming on board. So I think whether other companies like ByteDance, would they want to create, ultimately it's about the interoperability and also the partnership and the ecosystem. And to be honest, I think that is the future of it. We don't believe that one blockchain will rule them all, but it will be a system whereby all blockchains come together to be able to create the ecosystem of democracy for everyone.
Thanks, Aaron. For Prof. Amir, do you see similar kind of dynamics, especially with AIDF being backed by MES, which is also working with all the banks in Singapore? Is there a reason why AIDF is born in terms of the blockchain space, right? And how it would benefit the fintech space? I mean, DeFi and all that has been around, but because everyone is learning as we go, so what's this? I'm not sure if you can answer this, but
Well,
please.
let me try. First, let me just clarify one thing.
Yeah.
Asian Institute of Digital Finance is about digital finance. It's not about blockchain. It's not about cryptocurrency. It's just a small part of what we're doing. We're doing digital finance. We're doing fintech. We're doing machine learning. We're doing some very sophisticated credit risk analysis, right? We have a lot of things like a SME consortium where we bring different lenders together and using machine learning to get the data from each lender while not compromising and not sharing the data. So everybody is better off. So there are a lot of things going in Asian Institute of Digital Finance, and that is all related to Singapore's vision and MAS vision to build a digital finance future in Asia, right? What is important is that things are happening, and Singapore, for example, 5 years ago had 50 fintech startups 5 years ago. Now there is more than 1,500, and this exponential growth keeps on going. So what is important is that this whole digital ecosystem is built together from all sides. My colleagues here were talking about access and to capital and funding. So at NUS, some of my colleagues did research where they said research about innovation, and they said the most important factor, the most important variable in innovation is access to capital and liquidity. So that is a big thing that also have driven, those factors have driven early internet, .com bubble era, where we know there was like excesses in the field. There were like 700% one-day returns of 700%, but eventually all that capital has resulted in more innovation. I earlier mentioned we don't have a horse in this race. We want everyone to do well, but the nature of the free market and digital ecosystem, especially the one like this, that there will be some winners and there'll be a lot of losers. So I want all of you to be on the side of winners. We don't know who winners are, but the more we know, the more we are aware, the more we do research, we will get closer and closer to that elusive goal.
I think we are almost coming to the end of the panel, but I think one question for the panelists as well before we break into questions and answers. I know that probably some of the audience would have questions, I hope, but gazing into the crystal ball in your respective fields and in your respective day jobs, where do you see Web3 really going? Any interesting trends? Any interesting insights that you can share with the audience, to look out for in the upcoming years as well, especially now that we are in the crypto winter. Eileen, you want to go first?
Okay, yeah, but since we're coming down on time, I'm going to use the opportunity to actually share something that's a little bit closer to my heart. I think when I first started looking into the Web3 space, and more specifically into NFTs and DAOs, right, I must admit, I had trouble understanding it all as well, and really getting to the back of it all. And then, so the earlier projects that I started funding and, investing into are the ones that actually have a strong community that resonates with me and also has like a social cause. So I think that that's one space that to a traditional Web3 native who might just be looking at NFTs and DAOs as a trading opportunity or an alternative investment asset to look into. And traditionally, they would frown upon projects that look at social good, like charity kind of projects itself. But I think in this winter period, again, like what I said earlier on, it is these communities that still stick together and still thrive. And so it's in these times that we might see a bit more projects coming up where the proceeds, where number one, what is the purpose? The purpose is, it could be backing sustainability tech solutions, it could be backing mental health and wellness, it could be backing, or for example, one of the projects I'm a big fan of, Women Rise, their aim is to use the proceeds to build a school in the metaverse for the, I think, 280 million population of kids that don't have access to education, of which 129 million of them are girls. So they want to build a school in the metaverse to provide access to education, right? So those are projects that I can back even in wintertime, right? So because it's not just that I'm learning, I know that it's being put to good use in that space. So I think it's things like that that's coming up. Yeah, I'll just pause there for a moment.
Would that be related to your DAO, or it's a good opportunity to I'll segue back to the crystal ball, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, so me and my team, we're actually we'll be launching our NFT and DAO. It's called Mad Angels. Mad stands for Make a Difference. So what it is really a community-owned accelerator that provides mentorship and funding to Gen Z, so youth entrepreneurs who are building sustainability tech solutions. So what we are looking to bring together is community of people who you could be someone who really believes in sustainability tech and that we need to have sustainability solutions, whether it's environmental, social, or human. And in the past, you may have thought that, how am I, one person, going to make a difference? What is $100, $200 going to change, right? The second group will be parents who think that education needs to change. We need to be nurturing kids to look at alternative pathways. We need kids who are entrepreneurial and who could create the next gen of solutions. And thirdly, founders who benefited from mentorship before, who wants to pay it forward, or who did not have a mentor before and now wants to nurture the next generation. So we see the DAO as a way to bring together this community because collectively, and that's the key thing about DAO, right, is that the collective power can really drive a bigger difference. And so here in this Web3 world, being part of this DAO, you are not just a writer, meaning you're not just providing education to this next generation. You are an owner because you have a say in what teams to fund, what teams to mentor. And you can also be a user because all this development, these new products that these youth are creating, you can be their early adopters and ambassadors as well. So yeah, I think that's a summary of what Mad Angels DAO is all about. We are on Web3, so Twitter, Mad Angels DAO, Discord is a little bit of a pain, but we have a bit.ly, so bit.ly/Mad Angels. Or you can also go to Web2, which is Instagram. We are also on Mad Angels DAO. Thank you.
Thank you, Yiling. Aaron, gaze into the crystal ball. Give us your insights. Any particular, cryptocurrency? If you have any horses that you're betting on as well, I would love to know.
Personally, please buy more Clay tokens. # not financial advice. But I think into the crystal ball, at Clayton, we believe in intrinsic value and real use cases. And that is why we have not engaged in hype marketing throughout all this period. To be honest, I think hype marketing is very real and it can be easily achieved. Recently, there was also sort of an expose on the costings of all these influencers, their rates. It ranges anywhere from 100 per post to 500 to 1,000. And a lot of celebrities like Lindsay Lohan were even part of those influencer lists. What we believe is that blockchain is here to change the world. And how we plan to change the world is really to create accessibility. I remember this report by Gartner, whereby it surveyed almost 500 CIOs. 75% of them were actually exploring blockchain. However, only 11% of them have initiated either a POC or even begin talks to explore and go into the Web3 space. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the forefront and at the cusp of a new revolution. The crypto market cap now stands only at $1 trillion compared to the traditional market cap of 100 trillion. To be able to sit over here, I think you are very privileged because you have taken the first step to be interested, to understand more about the technology itself and not just engage in hype marketing. For us, we see ourselves as the bridge between Web 2 to Web 3 to create a corridor through user journey, user accessibility, and ease of fiction to onboard into the Web 3 space. And I believe ultimately that is where then you will see the price value increase once the intrinsic value has materialized, be it either in digital IDs, in supply chain management, or just simple as just a creator's economy, and for everyone to come in, create, and earn a living.
Thank you. And Prof. Emir, your future-looking glasses, anything in that horizon that we should be aware of?
Well, I was talking about being Wild West and things are happening at a frantic pace and we don't know where we're going and we don't know what we don't know. Now I'm going to step aside a little bit from Web3 and we'll be talking about something that Web3 has caused or maybe initiated or at least helped with is the central bank digital currencies, right? So that is the central banks were the biggest opponent of Bitcoin in 2009, and they were really, really, I almost want to say violently opposed to it. And now we have seen this complete U-turn where 80% of world's banks, central banks that are traditionally, notoriously, extremely conservative organizations are now looking at central bank digital currencies. Some of them have launched the pilot projects and a couple of them even went all the way in. They went all in and launched the central bank digital currency. And I'm lucky enough to be involved in 2 countries as a consultant to work on this. And it is incredible merger, I want to say, of new finance, crypto, and the old finance, traditional finance in this instance, central bank and monetary policy and everything. I talked a lot about Asian Institute of Digital Finance because that is much more related to our topic today, but I'm also in NUS Business School as academic director of UCLA NUS Executive MBA. And there I talk a lot about merging traditional and the new finance, right? So from that perspective, I said earlier, all of us are believers, some of us are idealists, some of us are pragmatists. I'm very much on the pragmatic side of the aisle, right? These banks, these financial institutions, these companies that are right there and been there for many, many decades, some of them may go away, but I say a good chunk of them will stay and change and reinvent themselves. So that is something that I'm really, really looking forward to, this merging of traditional finance and decentralized finance.
Go ahead, Yiling.
Okay, I just want to say one last thing before we run out of time. I did a workshop yesterday, as also under SG Women's in Tech for a group of about 60 students in Singapore under this Girls in Tech initiative, right? And my appeal to everyone here is just this. If for whatever reason our explanation about Web3 isn't compelling, isn't clear today, that's on me or that's on us maybe for not being clear enough. Please give everyone an open chance to learn about it. The reason why I say that is this, right? In this group of students yesterday where we talked about NFTs, one of the number one thing that came up was, my dad says that anyone can take a picture of a picture and sell it and con and plagiarize, and this is all bad. Full stop. And there's just a lot of misinformation going on, and my appeal is really keep an open mind, continue learning. If you have kids, learn together with your kids. don't shut it off right away, right now. I think that's the most important thing in terms of education.
And that actually wraps up very nicely our session. I know that Web3 is a topic that cannot be, unraveled in just an hour, slightly less maybe. But for us, I think there's a lot more that we're going to deep dive in the coming months. Various topics, various acronyms, NFTs, DAOs, and so on and so forth. Some of you who may or may not be aware of what they are, do stay tuned. Come and look for myself or the Block 71 crew over at our booth. Or for those online, follow us on our Instagram handles as well. Yes, we are natively in Web2. Unfortunately, we have not made the transition yet. So I'll be sticking to our panel of experts to make that transition. But yeah, do follow us as well. It's gonna be monthly to the end of the year. But for now, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for overextending our time, but I hope you enjoyed the chat today.